Hi, it's Katrina. Owning an entire island sounds pretty nice, and some are on the market for a pretty low price. But why? From historical forts to ones with angry ghosts, here are 9 islands nobody wants to buy. Number 9. Fort Carroll. Fort Carroll is an abandoned hexagonal sea fort and a 3.45-acre artificial island located in Maryland's Patapsco River near the Francis Scott Key Bridge. Anyone from there? It was built in 1848 to protect Baltimore from naval attacks and was commissioned by Robert E. Lee, who went on to become the commander of the Confederate Army during the American Civil War. So it has been there for a while, especially for U.S. history. Fort Carroll never saw combat, and by World War I, the structure and weaponry were outdated. In 1921, Fort Carroll was disarmed and officially abandoned. However, it survived, and during World War II, it was briefly used as a firing range. Then, in 1958, Baltimore lawyer Benjamin Eisenberg purchased the island with plans to build a casino, hotel, and restaurants. But a judge ruled that the fort was not in a county where slots were legal, and Eisenberg did absolutely nothing with the property since his plans were ruined. The Eisenberg family still owns Fort Carroll. It's decrepit, overgrown, and functions as a de facto bird sanctuary, hosting hundreds of seagulls, herons, and several other species. The disused concrete structure has cracked and fallen apart over the years, and urban explorers are typically the only human visitors. In 2013, the Eisenbergs announced their support of the Maryland Historical Trust's efforts to have the fort placed on the National Register of Historic Places. The property was assessed at a value of $31,500, and potential buyers must be willing to restore the fort. Anybody interested? Number 8. Getter's Island. Located in the Delaware River just east of Easton, Pennsylvania, Getter's Island went on the market last year for a modest $150,000. The 6-acre property is private and accessible. It's linked to Easton's mainland via a dam, and when the river runs low, you can conveniently walk from point A to point B. At all other times, a canoe or a small boat will do. Sounds like a bargain, right? Well, there is a catch. Getter's Island is one of the most haunted properties in Easton, according to realtor Teresa Barlow, who was tasked with selling the property. The island was named after a man named Charles Getter, who murdered his wife in 1833. He was hanged on the island rather than in downtown Easton because the property could accommodate a bigger audience. The execution failed the first time. Although the second try was successful, it was lengthy and disturbing. Getter's hanging was so gruesome, it was the last public execution in Pennsylvania. The following year, then-Governor George Wolfe banned such spectacles. Legend has it that Getter's ghost haunts his namesake island. A couple owned the island for 60 years before it was listed in 2018, and the alleged hauntings apparently didn't bother them. They reportedly used the property for recreational purposes. Good for them. Besides being haunted, Getter Island isn't practical. Barlow admitted she was unsure if any structures can be built on the island, which is prone to flooding. In the past, it housed an amusement park and a lumber yard, but there are reasons those businesses no longer exist. Would you purchase Getter Island? Let me know in the comments, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to join the Origins Explained family and get notified of more videos like these. Number 7. Little Rocky Island. For $98,000 in Canadian currency, you can have an entire island for the price of a house. Little Rocky Island is situated in the Atlantic Ocean off Nova Scotia and occupies nearly 8 acres. A sandy white shoreline stretches along the island's entire length. Inland, you'll find an unspoiled, mature forest. Nearby islands shelter Little Rocky Island from the elements, and while there's nothing built there, it's ripe for development, unlike Getter's Island. Why so cheap then? Perhaps because Little Rocky Island is only an island during high tide. At all other times, it's connected to the mainland by a strip of land. Depending on how you look at it, though, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. The property's status as a part-time island means that it's accessible by means other than boat, which may make it feel less private, but is admittedly convenient. Number 6. MacGibbon Island. Located in the St. Johns River in Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, MacGibbon Island is a 6-acre undeveloped property, and it was priced at only $29,900. Of course, there's a catch. You know it by now. Like Little Rocky Island, MacGibbon Island is only an island part-time. However, it has the opposite problem of Little Rocky Island. which becomes attached to the mainland during low tide and thus gets bigger. Instead, MacGibbon Island practically disappears every spring when it's submerged by floodwaters. So nothing can be developed on it, and it can only be enjoyed in its entirety during certain times of the year. Because no permanent structures can be built there, it's ideal for an owner who doesn't mind camping without modern conveniences, or is maybe really good at building things on stilts. The real estate listing is quick to point out the island's perks, including canoeing, kayaking, and seasonal duck hunting and recreation. The marketing strategy must have worked because the island's status on the listing was eventually updated to sold. See? There's something for everyone. Number 5. Motu Matatahi. Motu Matatahi is a 1.8-acre tropical island in French Polynesia, and it can be yours for a little over $260,000. Not a bad price in exchange for pristine white beaches, crystal clear waters, lush vegetation, and exotic wildlife, right? Well, not really. This private Pacific paradise comes without the customary astronomical price tag because the island is rife with pollution and radiation. What the heck? Nearly 200 nuclear tests were carried out in French Polynesia between 1960 and 1966. And although France claims that these were controlled, clean explosions, there are high levels of thyroid cancer and leukemia throughout the region. Yeah, usually nuclear and clean in the 60s don't really go together. In addition to these environmental hazards, Motu Matatahi is very small, making it especially vulnerable to rising sea levels and natural disasters such as cyclones and tsunamis. These extreme weather events can affect both the island and its surrounding waters, potentially causing reef damage, floods, landslides, and erosion. Not so great after all, unless you have lots of disposable income. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Number 4. Chandler Island. How would you like to appreciate the stunning beauty of New England's coastline from your very own private island? Hey, I'm there. Maybe not my own island, but if you have one, I will be there. Located in the Atlantic Ocean off the rocky shores of Maine, Chandler Island was listed on privateislandsonline.com for just $39,999 a few years ago, and even came with a small cabin. Make note of the site in case you're looking for something special. It must have eventually sold because it's no longer on the market. The lucky or perhaps unlucky buyer has to deal with one major disadvantage though. The already tiny 1-acre island is reduced to half its normal size during high tide. Hopefully the cabin remains on dry land, but even if this is the case, Chandler Island definitely isn't where you'd want to be during a rough sea storm. If it is officially sold, we could put it in a remote houses video. No neighbors to worry about here. Number 3. Tillamook Island. When you think of having your own island, you probably envision a scenic oasis with abundant wildlife, or at least a relaxing sandy beach to sunbathe on. You'll find none of that at Tillamook Island, a rock formation 1 mile off the Oregon coast. But if you're into lighthouses, perhaps this is the island for you, because Tillamook Island has one and it's priced at only $50,000. Nicknamed Terrible Lily, Tillamook Island also comes with a colorful history containing various myths, legends, and tragedies, including ferocious storms and other problems the lighthouse keepers faced during its years of operation between 1881 and 1957. The property changed hands several times after that. In 1980, the lighthouse was sold to a real estate developer who sealed the windows and turned it into a columbarium, where people could store the ashes of their deceased loved ones. In 1999, the columbarium lost its license. Since then, it's remained under private ownership and is part of the Oregon Islands National Wildlife Refuge, functioning as a home for sea lions and seabirds. So they got a good deal. Number 2. Little Monkey Cay. Little Monkey Cay is a 0.75-acre island off the coast of Belize and near the mouth of the Monkey River. It's available for $55,000. While there are no monkeys on the island itself, it's located across from a large howler monkey population on the mainland. Caribbean Island Brokers describes Little Monkey Cay as being an ideal development property close to popular tourist attractions and an eager labor force. The website also refers to the property as the cheapest island in the Caribbean. Even after a prospective owner invests in the necessary seawall, and filling it would need to be much more than a teeny tiny, albeit beautiful sandbar, especially since Little Monkey Cay is located smack dab in a hurricane hotspot. Oh, and the water surrounding it is a murky brown color. Does it still sound worth it to you? Number 1. Antipodes Islands. The Antipodes Islands aren't for sale, but if they were, nobody would want to buy them. They're located in subantarctic waters south of New Zealand and are territorially part of the country, but are not part of any region or district. The lack of formal governance is trivial, however, despite the Antipodes Islands being a UNESCO World Heritage Site because they're both uninhabited and inhospitable. In other words, people can't live there and most can't visit. The 8.1 square mile archipelago of volcanic ash islands is not open to the public or occupied by humans because the harsh winds and cold climate make living here impractical and virtually impossible. It's accessible by permit only. There's no evidence that humans ever lived on the Antipodes Islands or that anyone even visited before Europeans discovered them in 1800. Other than the unsubstantiated discovery of a shard of indigenous pottery found there in 1886. But no one's sure if that really happened. There have been visitors to the Antipodes Islands over the years, especially for seal hunting. The archipelago is also known for 3 shipwrecks that have occurred there, with the most recent happening in 1999. In 1886, the Antipodes Castaway Depot and hut was constructed on the Maine island. It contains sufficient living space and emergency provisions for any unlucky souls who may become stranded on the lonely island. Today, the steep rocky islands function as a nature preserve, so it's best to let it be. Thanks for watching! Would you want to buy any of these islands? Which one? Let me know in the comments below and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you next time. Bye!